Hi, everybody. This is JoAnne Eisen. As I said, I was coming back today with a new and amazing guest I haven't had on in a long time. I'm so excited he's here with us today. I would like to welcome Matt Wagner with me. And we're going to talk to you today about the importance of breath and breathing and why that's so important. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so
Thanks for having
appreciative.
me.
It's been a while.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were talking the other day about what's going on, and I kind of don't want to go too much into the negativity of it, the heaviness
Yeah.
of it, because everybody is really feeling it, let alone we're bombarded with it. But we were talking the other day about kind of the symbology of breath and what we're actually going through in this process and the importance of breath. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, it's right, like you said, there's so many layers to what's happening right now, it seems, but it's this idea, it's forcing us inward, right? And so, like that breath that comes in,
Mhm.
like when we're doing a meditation, you start to get that awareness to your breath, to feel it coming in
Mhm.
and releasing and coming in and releasing. But the breath goes deeper than just your lungs, right? There's not just in, it oxygenates into your blood system, it's moving through your whole body. And this is that same experience, right? We're being pushed in, we're being pushed in, we're being pushed in, we're being pushed into our homes. The communities, right, are getting smaller. It's a crazy, all of this inward, inward, inward. And this morning, I was hiking with my little puppy and just kind of, how we do, you and
Mhm.
I, and everyone probably watching here, just like spending time thinking about what is really happening with this whole inward.
Mhm.
What does that even mean? You
Mhm.
know, it's time to go inward. So that's been my my whole morning, just absorbing that whole thing with the breath, with all of it, all of how do you go inward,
Mhm.
right? What does that even mean?
What does it really mean? And if you guys know, both parents,
Yeah.
um, put in the chat because that's a big thing that good vibes. Certainly, said good vibes. That's a big part of what a lot of people are talking about in the
Right.
process that we're going through right now.
Right.
What
And
does that
how,
mean?
yeah, how to go inward.
Mhm.
What's happening when you do go inward, right? So I start thinking about like um what I've studied about, what I've heard about, what my beautiful little guides have told me over the years. And I think, so going inward, we're all going into our house. This happens to we go inward when we want to like batten down the hatches and get through a storm, right? We run inside and hold on. And now we're being forced like emotionally kind
Yeah.
of going inward and we're holding on, right?
Mhm.
And one of my guides told me a long years ago that she said even the plants at the end of the season go inward,
Mhm.
right? They go into the earth where they're held by the mother,
Mhm.
all for a whole season.
Mhm.
But those that get lost in the darkness don't come back in the spring.
Mhm.
And I think, there's there's where we are, right? So I think with the breath comes in and out. So we go inward and we come out, and we go inward and we come out. It's this right now, I think it's the exercise of learning how to go inside, expand that space,
Mhm.
and then come out. And the more I just kind of sat with this morning, I was thinking, I have a lot of friends
Mhm.
who are like, oh, Maddie, I'm using this time to clean my house.
Mhm. That's a big one.
And one of my sisters said, we're stuck inside. So we got a dumpster and
Mhm.
we've gone through, what we can give away, we will give away. We're getting rid of what we don't need.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. This is going inward, right?
Yes.
This is how we need to get inside, go inward, and reestablish where we're living inside, internally. What isn't good for us? What do we need to get rid of?
Mm-hmm.
How do we let go of what doesn't serve us?
Mm-hmm.
So breathing in and then getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Breathing in, expanding it. So I like, that whole idea of just kind of going in, seeing where you are, and then just letting out, let it go, get out of it, right? You don't have to do it all in one day. So this, I think my one of my first spiritual teacher, Miss Etta, used to tell me, Angel, we have to spend a lot of time creating your safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big part of my first experience with her, of just closing your eyes. I mean, I did a meditation on my Instagram
Mm-hmm.
last night about it, because it's that internal space. It's going inward,
Right.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, closing your eyes, getting to a place where that you create this just beautiful, it's safe, sound, and secure by the power of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like for me, it's this beautiful rolling hills, all of this lovely tall grass blowing, the sun is warm.
Mm-hmm.
There's this tree that has fallen, and I always sit up on the tree. There's two cats, there always have been. Like one's kind of pantherish, one's cheetah-ish, and I don't know why, they're just always there. Well, I know why now, but I didn't know why when it started.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this little, running water, and I spent a lot of time understanding what it smelled like, what it sounded like. And then Miss Etta would have me just go inward. And she would say, now, Angel, tell me when you are in your safe space. And then we would work from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she would give me all of the lessons. That's where she would hand me all of the beautiful information. It makes me cry thinking about it, because those times were so special. But
Yeah.
so I think, right, this is what we're doing now,
Right.
or this is what we're being called to do. It feels like to me,
Mm-hmm.
um, because there has to be a level of getting so deep inside and reconnecting to yourself that this outside world crazy doesn't tear you apart and take you
Exactly.
downstream with it. I
Exactly.
think you and I were talking, underneath us right now, that vibration is so strong, and we all are dipping our little toes in it all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's so difficult to not step off into it and just swim around. And we
Right.
have to avoid getting all the way into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. For me, it's that's what it it feels like, right? I don't know. What about you? What does that feel like to you?
Well, I love hearing you talk about what you're explaining, because what you're talking about is that journey back to the self, back to the knowing of who we really are. And it's funny because I recorded a meditation that I'm going to release. It's all about this as well. It's about going back into, what is your environment like? For me, I always go to a beautiful grassy area with flowers. There's a huge weeping willow tree, and it's just beautiful and lush. And there's this bench there, and a river goes by, and all these things have meanings to us, and what they mean to why
For
we're
sure.
here and our purpose in life, or how we're seeing life, which is really
Sure.
important.
That's
And
beautiful.
what
Yeah,
we were talking about was how important that analogy is to what's happening in the universe as well, because we're experiencing that in our life, but it's also what we're seeing that's being cleansed and happening in the whole world, which is so
sure.
amazing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I I mean, it's just I keep I get so many, like you, phone calls and sessions with clients right now. Right now, it's is the time. And the question is always, everyone keeps talking about going inward.
Yeah.
And I would love to know, I mean, the last time I think you and I talked, or maybe one of the times, we talked about self-love
Right.
and the confusion, right? And
Mhm.
how everyone talks about it. Oh yeah, self-love, you have to have self,
Yeah.
but what is it?
What is
Right? Like
it? Yeah.
we all say it as if it's our best friend and we just understand everything about it. But when you start to question, when I talk to my clients, what is self-love?
Right.
It's very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Well,
you
I don't know.
agree?
Is confusing the right word? First, I have to comment. We have 5 different Sharons on this call at the same time. That is,
Well,
I
we are Sharon, honey.
didn't realize there were that many different Sharons. You guys are incredible. And, it is, for me, I think that it really is. I got distracted now from what I was going to say. Self-love is something that we deceive ourselves about. But I think that it's something that we are growing into understanding because, as like you were saying about going inward, that's a part of learning how we are or are not really showing ourselves self-love.
Right.
That's a
I
big
think
one.
I think this, that I think personally, when you go inward, it's about anchoring yourself into that
Mhm.
connection, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So you have to know, like, again, today I'm walking. I
Hmm.
always stop and talk to the trees and make sure that
Hmm.
everything's okay. And um, I, the, there was this one huge tree, and you could see this hole at the bottom that, in some beliefs, that's the entrance to the underworld. And so I stop and, pay my respects. And then I talk to the underworld again, inward,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then in the underworld, it is not an unsafe place if you know where you are.
Hmm.
Like I had a shaman in Chiapas, Mexico, tell me, I love this man, Shun, and he was talking about how many people will bring their children to him and saying this child is crazy, and the child is not crazy. uh, Actually, a witch has taken their soul and taken it to the underworld, and then a shaman has to go to the underworld and retrieve that soul. And it's dangerous if you don't know how to navigate the underworld,
Hmm.
because you will get lost.
Hmm.
And once that happens, you will die and the child will die, which just means they'll all remain in an unstable place. And I think, right, there's always, like, we go into darkness
Yeah.
to sleep,
Hmm.
to slumber, right? We go into darkness to hide. We go all of these, there's all of these representations, right? And we're going inside and we're going inside and we're going inside. But you have to know how to navigate that space. Yeah, like it's dangerous to when the voices
Hmm.
get a hold of
Oh, wow.
that
Yeah.
space of going inward,
Yes.
right? And this is what my guide said. Some plants don't find their way back in the spring,
Hmm.
and it's okay to go inside and hold on sometimes, right?
Hmm.
But you have to know when to look for the light,
You do.
yeah, and get
Exactly.
back out. And
Hmm.
so and so we can already hear it. I've been having conversation after conversation with friends and clients about this is making them go mad,
Yeah.
being stuck in their homes,
Yes.
which is a place that we all feel the most safe, by the way, most of the time.
Yes. Yeah.
I just want to get home.
Right. Look forward to getting
Yeah.
home. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so now too much of it, then what is happening? I have so many, I mean, I'm going through it myself. My boyfriend, partner, I have, where I live now is just 700 square feet,
Yeah.
and 2 of us and a dog.
Wow.
I communicate for a living, and trust me, it's, oh, bitches, like, this is tough. I mean, So he's like, honey, I think I'll go to my place and just for a couple days, right?
Yeah.
Because this is what happens, isn't it?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's a good
So we
analogy.
say it. Yeah. And so we have to be really bring this awareness and consciousness to going inward, to what that, right? To how to be safe inside even our own selves.
Mm-hmm.
But that self-love and self-compassion, all of this part of, right, connecting to that self
Mm-hmm.
and being really present in who you are, so
Mm-hmm.
that all of that swirling, because we can get stuck in it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I talk about, um, like for instance, talking about with a client about jealousy
Mm-hmm.
and how jealousy isn't a real thing. It is a place that the mind creates trying to protect your heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, when jealousy will take you down to the cave,
Mm-hmm.
and when it gets you into the cave, jealousy is not the only thing there.
Mm-hmm.
There is betrayal and deceit and all of these things, and you're going to get gang raped by all of this madness in that cave. And the
Mm-hmm.
longer you stay with jealousy in the darkness in the cave, the more you're going to believe everything it tells you.
Exactly.
So this is that same, right? That is going inward, that is going all the way down into it. So we have to know, right? So there's the breath. We come in,
Mm-hmm.
we expand the space, and we go back out. We come in, we expand the space, we do beautiful things, right? We
Mm-hmm.
start seeing, but we also to have a system, I think,
We do, absolutely.
and I think that's what we're asking for. Like my clients, when this is right, this is what we all want to know. What is your system? What is my system?
Right.
What is a good idea of a system?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to know when we go into the space and we're trying to clear the space, and now we see things that we haven't been dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
ideas, beliefs, situations, painful grievances, whatever it is that is in that space that hasn't been dealt with is now going to show up.
It is, and very
And how do
quickly.
we
And
clean
very
that?
loud.
Yeah. And how
Yes.
do we clean that space, right? There's no like circle delete.
Right.
There's no
Exactly.
like, oh, there's that pain of da 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 da,
Mm-hmm.
delete, gone. No, there has to be a system to clean the space.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what is that? For me, I have found when I see that space and I see what like for me, I was molested as a kid and I have all of this for years. It was not cute. And I became like the quintessential book study of a child who was molested. I did all of these things that a child does. So I have moments as an adult where I see myself as a child
Mm-hmm.
that was crazy.
Hmm.
And I have all this shame and embarrassment and guilt about that child that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And when that moment shows up and plays in my mind or in my inward space, as an adult, I would just think to myself, yes, 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 Matt, you were, you know, being molested by your uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. You were crazy. That caused anybody to be crazy. But that is not how to clean that space.
No, it's not.
So,
You're burying it. You're just covering it. It's not really clean. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And then I realized I had to hear the story.
Mm.
I had to let that little boy tell me the story about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And as an adult, I had to apologize to that little boy for being ashamed. I had to listen to him and say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. I wished I could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
Please forgive me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then that it just vanishes. That is a real thing. It just moves on.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had this all happened to me when I was like in Machu Picchu hiking by myself and I was having a nervous breakdown. But That's for another time.
We always
But
go to Machu Picchu when we're having a nervous through the mountains just to connect.
That was really thought I was crazy. I was like, bitch, you better get yourself together. You are all alone. No one's here to help you. So, but there it was, right? It was that going inside and starting to figure out what is my process of cleaning this.
Right.
And as I did, it just got stronger and stronger and stronger. Each story would come and I would sit with it. And this is what you and I have talked about, what is self-love. I think for me, that is where I work from when working with people with self-love. Self-love is when you no longer turn away from your own eyes. It is when you no longer turn away from your own pain. It is when you sit with that pain and love yourself inside of that space, right? And so this is all going inward. This is a lot of work and a beautiful time to do it because we do have time. I got nothing but time right now. I can't work. I'm working with clients here and there, but it's like,
well, it's without interruption.
It's a weird,
too, you know, we're not going to be interrupted during this time period.
And my brain isn't like, oh God, what time do I have to be done with this? Because I have to. No, there is no have to. I got nothing, right? Like, So it's an uninterrupted place right now, and I think for a lot of us that are planners and need a schedule to process things, that's part of the crazy.
Yeah. So, comments. I want to go live with Sharon Lee, who has a cabin in the woods, and when she gets bored, she gets on her motorcycle. I'm for that one. I think that sounds really cool.
I'm all in. Where's the cabin? Let's go.
Let's go to the cabin. Oh, just being in the woods and the air and the breathing it. Oh my God, it'd be amazing. But but then she was talking about, when she gets cabin fever, she gets on her motorcycle. But I think a lot of us, because what I'm feeling in the energy is when we first started, everybody was really tired anyway, because we live such fast lives. And now we're coming to the point where, okay, we're rested. It's not new anymore. And now we're going to start getting restless. And I don't know why I'm coming back to this, because I meant to talk about going in and having self-love, but I'm going back to this. So we're going to go with it.
I love this, though. I love when we do this.
So it really does show us how, because right now, no matter what we want, we are being commanded to, forced to, ordered to, however you want to word it, to be inward. And that's the beauty of what all this is creating, because like you said, and some people have mentioned, they're going through certain things, they're going through closets, they're going through whatever. But that's what we're actually, whether we know it or not, I feel to some level, we're always doing that inner cleaning, that inner work.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is a great time to really reflect on that.
I agree. I was listening to another person speak about this, and it was that same, like, here we are.
Right.
Like we are, it's like the universe, there's some universal force trying to get everyone woke. Like, you people have run and run and run and run and run. Now you got nowhere to go.
Right. Exactly.
Stop. Listen to yourself. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Listen, the guy I'm with is Japanese, and he is not from a culture that talks freely about how you feel. It has been the most fascinating thing to me. And I have to constantly remember, I grew up little Catholic dairy farmer in Minnesota, don't you know there? You're only as big, right, as your experiences allow you to be. And that is just true.
Right.
So we've all come from something and somewhere to get here. But, and so sometimes we'll have a communication breakdown, and we try to really resolve what each of us is talking about. And I think sometimes it's like telling him, the ocean's not just blue. Sometimes the water is green.
Yes.
But if you've never seen it, you can't imagine that it could be something else, right?
Right.
And I remember how that felt.
Yeah.
Don't you remember when you first started realizing these
Gosh.
teachings? And you're like, what? How come no one told me this? Where was this?
Oh, see, I had a completely different reaction. I'm like, why the hell did I get the story I got? Are you kidding me?
I could
Not a bunch of bull. Are you kidding me?
Yes, I loved it when I found out that there was all of this.
Yes.
And which is a funny thing too, right? Because I think in that early time, then you want to proselytize and tell everyone that you found out something.
Yes. Well, I wasn't quite that way either, though.
Oh, I was all the way in like, oh my God, have you read Shakti Gawain? Oh, she'll change your life. I'm like 20 years old.
It's so funny how we're all different in how we react, right? And it depends on our story. It depends on our beliefs that, we have to process the way that we process. Yeah. We're all different in the way that we process.
That's the beauty of it all. I mean, if you and I did the same thing, one of us is unnecessary. I mean,
this is why I love having Matt on.
That is the beauty of who we are in this world.
Exactly.
We all come with what we come with, and it's all beautiful in its own space, right?
Right.
So,
and we're learning our own lesson through that, and that's something we have to trust, because each one of us start out the same, like twins start out the same, right? You have the same everything until you take that first breath, and as soon as that first breath happens, you're going to see things differently and do things differently, because your experiences will be different. Even if you're twins, your experiences will still be different, and how you see.
I love that. Do you like that? I mean, my poor clients have to hear it all the time when they say, "No, I've had that experience." I correct everyone that says that. You've never had that experience. I've never felt like you feel. I have never. There's always something different. You've never felt the same way twice.
Exactly.
There's something different. We have to quit imagining that something is the same. And because of the beauty in everything that is different, that is the greatness of that everything, your experience is yours. It doesn't have to be like anything.
And if we can really, feel that and understand that, then we would be so much more useful.
Yes, because
empathy, but we would be more useful in helping others.
Yes, because when we say, I've had that experience, it shuts down you from experiencing what the other person is trying to tell you, because your brain's already thinking, I know what they're saying. You don't know what they're saying.
Exactly. You assume.
And sometimes we say it like we want to commune with somebody, but really it just stops the whole conversation. And then you never get to know, because you just said, oh, I've had that same thing happen.
Right.
Wow.
Sharon, you cracked me up. Sharon just welcomed Martha to the Sharon Club. And
I love it.
You're both welcome to the Sharon Club today. That's so true. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
These chats are cracking me up right now. But that's so true. And I think if we can really be the observer of life and not jump into what we think we know, just think how much better the world would be.
Always. Yeah. Always.
But with that being said, though, we don't want to hold back to what?
Back to inward.
Although we kind of got off of breath.
Yeah.
If we forget it, I have no idea where I was going now with that one. Let's go back to inward. Let's actually go back to self-love, because Sharon Lee had said, I think it was Sharon Lee. Let me go back. She was talking about her definition of self-love.
I would
and
love that.
that we don't do it. Okay, self-love is self-acceptance and lack of self-criticism. So those really are two
Sure.
big important parts of self-love, especially the criticism, because the criticism is that chatter that we hear, that negative old belief system that plays over and over in our head until we can change that record. But don't you
Sure.
think it was and I appreciate that, Sharon Forte said that actually. I always say your name wrong. But it's deeper than that. And that is the truth. That is a very big, integral part of it. A self-acceptance is huge. And breaking that criticism, that chatter is also very important. But are there more aspects of self-love? What do you think about that?
Right. Oh. All of a sudden, my voice, I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, it was Sharon Fort that said that. Certainly. We're going to give you Sharon L, Sharon F, Sharon S, and Marsha and Marilyn. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
Are you ready?
all of a sudden I can't hear anything.
Oh, your iPad. I mean your earbuds. I'll let you connect.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
It's like I shut all of that off and it still is this weird.
Go into in the panel below. Can you hear me? Shake your head if you
just
hear
barely.
me. Go to that panel below where it says camera and mic and tap on that. Technical problems, you guys.
Sorry about.
Now I can't hear you. Did you see in the where the camera and the mic is? If you hit the mic, hit the audio, can you hear the test?
It is just.
It may be connected there into your earbuds.
No, I shut those off.
But the software on the computer, if you go into the settings and then you go into the audio, where is the mic and the speaker? Where is that going? To your computer or to your earbuds?
Let me see. To the computer.
And when you see next to the speaker, it has that little microphone that says test. Can you, if you push it, do you actually hear it?
Okay, I can almost hear you. So I'll just do it this way until the end here.
You have to have technical problems occasionally.
So bizarre.
Is the volume all the way up on your computer?
Yeah, everything's up. Everything's like all of a sudden.
Because I hear you fine, and everybody else is saying they hear you.
Okay, well,
so
you're like just barely. It's probably like Matt. Quit talking and listen. This is the universe speaking to me.
I don't think so.
Shut your fat lips and just listen.
You crack me up. You guys should hear our conversations when we're not doing live. It's very funny. Very interesting conversations. So back to self-love.
Right.
The definition, or we feel like it's something that is not something we ever truly in this lifetime acquire, because it's a process of learning. We're learning about love and relationships through how we interact and see ourselves. That's a big part of how we interact and see other people. I feel like we're always pulling it apart and learning deeper and deeper what self-love really is.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm like still stuck on what some of the people were talking about. Like, you have to bring self-compassion and self-forgiveness to get to self-love.
You do.
Right? And self-compassion isn't a get out of jail free card.
No.
And self-forgiveness is not.
No,
it's not like, oh, oops, I just stole from that person. Oh, I forgive you. Let's move on. No guilt. That's not what it is, right?
No, right.
It is real self-compassion is just sitting with yourself and allowing it, saying, I know we
that was not the greatest choice.
Mm-hmm.
So let's reconcile that,
Mm-hmm.
and let's know that we'll do better next time. It will
Right.
problem solve. It will work through something. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just looking past anything, but it's that self-compassion gets you to self-forgiveness. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that is part of that self-love, because there's so much underneath that's always at us. All this guilt,
Yes.
all of this shame,
Mm-hmm.
all of these stories that have gone on and been told and not reconciled.
Right.
All of that is stopping our self-love.
Right.
And we're always just kind of barging through it and like pushing that shit to the side. Like, listen, I'll get to you later. That I'm just gonna love myself. That's just not how it works.
No, it's
It
not.
doesn't get you. I always say you can tell somebody that love doesn't come from somebody else, right? I can't give to you the love that my mom gave to me, or my boyfriend gave to me, or my dog gave to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can only give to you the love that I have for myself. And the people that don't love themselves, when they say, I love you, I say that that will fall to the ground before it gets to you,
Exactly.
because there is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It, yeah, I mean, that's
I
real,
agree.
real, 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 real.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we have this other, like, I have, these amazing people that you run into. You're like, how do you really, they are so filled with self love
Yeah.
that when they say, I love you, you feel like you're a better person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hear you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is real. So the self love is in the center of this whole self connection and how we move through this world. It's so much more difficult than saying it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is a great exercise of strength to
Yes.
get to true
Mm-hmm.
self love. I believe that it is something that is given to
Mm-hmm.
you with effort. Self love is something that you get.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So
But well, let me rephrase that a little bit. And
sure,
Sharon F., I'm very sorry about your past. And, I watch you and I know we're in groups together and you seem to do really well. I can understand that you would get depressed if you've been abused as a child. And, that's a part of something that can really hold us back and
oh,
is attacked from stage. Yeah, both Sharon F. and Sharon L. That can really, that's what I'm saying. That's a part of that unpacking, that part of
oh,
really getting to know all those parts of us, because out of everything that happened to us in our lives affects the way we see ourselves and the way that we
yeah,
accept ourselves. And that's what I'm talking about. Like even in my own path, where I thought I really loved myself, and then I realized I didn't. And there, Sharon or Marsha, the welcome guest to the Sharon Club, she does a lot of mirror work about, looking at yourself and saying, I love you, or blowing a kiss to yourself. And I
sure,
couldn't even look at myself in my eyes in the mirror when I first started my path because of
sure.
my past. So that's what I'm saying. That's kind of one of those things that we're unpacking, because as we go deeper with that inward looking, then we unpack more and more of those parts of us that are afraid to come out, or those parts of us that we're not quite ready to look at or
Sure,
forgive or accept.
sure. Yeah, I mean, that's all what we're talking about, right? That
Yeah,
is
exactly. Right.
that is the story.
Right.
I mean, no one said this was going to be easy. That's why they
No,
call it work.
exactly.
Self work
Yeah,
is not easy.
it is.
It is, I mean, that's why it's filled with self love, because you are willing to spend the time and the work and the effort to get to a place of true self forgiveness. And
Exactly.
and I listen. I mean, I was molested my whole childhood. I was abused. I come from a lot, and I realize I'm a strong person. I used to hate that when people would say it to me. Oh, Matt, you're such a strong person. And I would think, F you, that you're just minimizing what it took for me to get here.
Exactly.
But the truth is, I am strong, and that's why I did get here fast. It started at a very young age for me. I'm so grateful that when I was 18 years old, I knew I needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And I started running down a path.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, it's a horrible thing. I'm grateful for my childhood now because I am who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
It is a horrible way to get here,
Mm-hmm.
but it is what set me on a path that has given me my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
My story about who I am is a tough story in the beginning of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I'm 20, it is rainbows and unicorns.
Exactly.
I mean, so, and I know that this is not the truth for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know we all are in our own struggles, and it is different for every person. I'm grateful that I have strength. I don't know how. It just is.
And I think that's the beauty and what we forget about the purpose why we're here, or the purpose for us being here. It's we all have different paths in life that shape and create who we are, and we all evolve and grow at different times. And that's really that acceptance, the acceptance of ourself without having judgment. Like you were saying, if somebody says they love you and it just drops by the wayside, you know that there's energy there that you should be aware of, for one.
Yeah.
That happens. And also not try to force something else from that, right? Because when we're already from a weak or a broken place, then we accept things that we don't want to accept later.
Yeah.
And that comes from what we're talking about, and what a lot of you guys have been talking about in the chat about doing that inner work, about that being inward, to having that true love for ourselves, that we don't accept things outside of ourselves that are not in alignment for who we are.
And well, right. I can accept them outside of myself. I just don't accept them for myself.
Exactly.
I know in this world, if somebody introduces themselves as Elvis, I just shake their hand and say, "Nice to meet you, Elvis." I mean, who am I? Right? That none of it is for me. I can accept anything outside of myself for what it is. It is not for me.
Right.
And so this is the self-acceptance part of me, where we start to understand that, I will have clients who are just like, they're pissed about somebody said something to them and they can't let it go.
Exactly.
And we will work and work and work, and they just will not with it. And, I'm like, the problem is you're trying to reconcile someone else's truth.
Exactly.
You cannot. There is no reckoning of someone else's truth. It is not yours. You just accept the truth that is theirs. That is their truth. So,
and that's most important. I want people to really breathe that one in, because how many times do all of us do that?
yes.
We're accepting somebody else's truth. It's not ours to accept.
Right. And you don't have to accept that it's true. And that's that's why it's raking your ass so hard, because you can't make sense of it. Well, it can't make sense. It's not your truth. You're trying to reconcile somebody else's truth.
Right.
It's not yours.
Journey. Exactly.
I mean,
we
hard.
Do that all the time. We're constantly trying to step in there and say, no, here, let me help you with your problem,
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, but that doesn't make sense. It never will.
No, it won't.
And that's okay.
These are things that we go through because I think we always do it. Even when we know better, we still have those moments that we do it because we're human.
Sure. Yeah, this is easy for me to say.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, but it is a practice. And once you know better, you do better. Thank you, Maya Angelou. That is a real thing.
It is a real thing. Yes.
So even when we're in an experience and we know our way is not where we are,
Right.
that is when we use what we've learned to get back out. You know, like for me, I think it's all secular, right? Everything comes back. You don't ever get over something.
Nope.
You just learn how to process and move through it. So, and it comes back around. And the next time it comes through your window, you're like, no, thank you. Keep going. And then one day you find yourself in some damn issue that you're like, why am I going through this? I dealt with this years ago. I'm not even like this. I can't believe I'm working on this. Yeah. Well, stop and breathe. You're not. You just accidentally open the window and let something in. So how did you get out before? You have all the knowing. Don't get lost. Don't get stuck in why am I here? Why am I here again? What am I doing here? Don't. Breathe into it. Realize you are there.
Right.
Know that you already gained these tools. We've done it before. And you're like, I will beat this shit down because I've done this. Yeah. And I know my way out, right?
Exactly.
Like turn your little flashlight on and get back out of the cave because you've been in that part of the cave before. But who doesn't do it? I do. I'm like, I can't believe I worked my ass off to get past this shit. And now here I am swimming. And then I'm like, oh God, Matt. Just breathe into this. Just work it out.
Yeah.
And then you realize, this is not a thing.
No.
I don't need the fear that is associated with this. I already did that.
Right. And it's it's trusting yourself through that.
And it's a constant in this life. And it's okay. But we can really get hard on ourselves that why am I here again?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you hear it with your clients. I hear it all the time.
Are you kidding?
I don't know why. What's that?
I do it as well. I'm with you on the why am I back here again? Wait a minute. I already did this. No.
Yeah, it's okay. Who cares if you did it? Do it again.
Because
just quit.
The thing is that when you do go back into it, you catch it faster.
Yes.
And you end it sooner. And that's the point.
And then you give yourself credit for it. And you're like, that's good. I slayed that bitch fast this time.
Yes.
If it does get me again, I will cut its throat soon.
Amen. Yes.
Right? Yes. But it's a mindset, isn't it?
It is a mindset. You cannot.
And it's an understanding. Yeah. To not, again, once you get pulled down to that cave, you got to get yourself back out.
You really do. And it's what you were talking about coming into the underground. That's exactly what you're talking about. It's when you stay in that chatter, that mind frame, that whatever it is that you're going through to appease yourself or make yourself feel better versus just allowing it to flow through you. Don't attach to it. Don't own it. Don't grab it by the horns again and ride that bull.
Yeah. And it's not a competition.
No, it's not. Yes.
No one's keeping score of how many times you felt the same way and had to deal with the same issue. Nobody. You're the only one.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
stop.
With all parts of life. I mean, we compare ourselves to each other on a regular basis. It's part of our human nature.
Sure.
That's something that's a part of this whole cycle that we're talking about too. When you can stop comparing yourself, then you're not going to be judging yourself as harshly.
Sure. Yeah. Judgment, I think we've talked about that. Judgment is necessary.
Yes.
And it's not a negative.
Right.
Judgment in its purest form is meant to inform. Judgment has nothing to do with condemnation. Condemnation is when we use judgment as power.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that usually happens when ego sees a reflection of self or a reflection of an experience of self. Yeah? Exactly. And this is when the condemnation gets added to the judgment. But judgment, I need to judge, is this a safe space?
Exactly.
I mean, all of it. It has to be like, watch the animals, dogs. This little puppy of mine judges quickly.
Yeah.
And isn't attached to it. It's just uses it. Right? Where am I? Okay, that's good. I'm safe here. Right? There's just little things that judgment and ego both, you know, that whole idea of letting go of ego. Ego allows me to stand on a stage and talk to a mass of people.
Yes.
It really does. But
Yeah.
both ego and judgment, if you give either one of them too much power, they'll both tell you great lies.
Right. And they're both good barometers for us. I mean, we have to, one of the things I learned from, I had Adrienne on yesterday. We both are.
I love her.
Is to allow whatever emotion is coming through you. Don't just suppress it. Don't just try to get rid of it. We have to understand it. And we have to let it flow through us. We don't attach to it, but we have to understand it and let it flow through us. And then that helps us to have a better understanding of what it is that we're really dealing with, or what the heart of the issue is.
Yeah, like Eckhart Tolle, Michael Meade, all of these people talk about, right, that let your emotions be a guest.
Yes, a guest.
They're just a guest.
Yeah.
Let them come in. And let them move on. And that is the thing, you know, pain's the same way. Pain will come, but pain always changes.
It does change.
And always
we don't realize that it does
changes.
So sometimes. Yes.
Yeah. So like that is, I mean, but you know, again, there's so many, you know, balls in the air, so to speak. There's so many wheels turning at the same time that this information, we need to get to it, right? And we have to have resources.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, I call my coach, or I call my therapist, or I call my sister, who's both of those things. And I'm like, I'm chasing my tail, running a little circle, can't tell. I mean, you and I have had these conversations where you're like, Matt. And I'm like, oh, right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, right? Like, don't expect that you have all the answers. It's okay to not. I mean, it's part of the whole process.
Well, because we can do what you said. And I have two of my buds are here, Marcia and Marilyn. They're my buds. And whenever I'm in a rabbit hole, they're who I call. Okay, you guys, I'm in a rabbit hole, because you need to have that outer view to be able to help you to break through sometimes that circle, the tail that you're chasing, to be able to see the forest for the trees. You know, you really do need that help.
Yes, you cannot see a mountain when you're standing on it.
Exactly.
So, perspective's everything.
But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because I hear this a lot from people, and I would like to know how you would respond to this. Sharon S. said, "Sorry, life is hard." How would you respond to someone who feels that life is hard? And I understand what you're saying, Sharon, but I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because that's something that a lot of us can feel, especially right now where we're stuck inside and we're not able to just go to the beach or go for a hike up the mountains here or whatever. It's all closed and we shouldn't be doing it. Or just go, you know, do fun things. How would we respond to somebody who feels that life is just hard? Because I've been there. I've totally been there.
Yeah. Well, it is a truth. Like, that is not an untruth. Life is hard.
It is hard.
And then what?
Expand on your explanation for it.
Right. Well, like I say, you know, all the time, and don't say "okay" to I'm like, and then what happens? What happens when life is hard? Then what happens? Right? The story isn't life is hard.
No.
The story is, and then what happens to it?
That's interesting. It really does make you pause, because we assume what happens next, right? But we don't really know what happens next until we go through it. And usually it's nowhere near as bad as we think it's going to be. But even
if it is, then that's what it is.
Exactly. And you always deal with it.
I mean, one of my friends who she cigarette smoking, vodka drinking, 70-some-year-old lady who was just crass, and I loved her.
Yeah.
Imagine that, lung cancer.
Oh,
And after 2 packs a day for, her whole life. And I don't know if that's why she got it, but that was part of the deal. But I would go over to her house and do her hair for her. And, she didn't like deeply emotional conversations. She liked to stay everything off of it. So you had to make fun of it, right? Any kind of painful thing, you would poke at it. And so I'm over there. I'm like, hey, bitch, how's that whole little, somebody's always got it worse. How's that going for you? And she took her cigarette away and said, well, it's true.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be dead in a couple weeks, but the people do have it worse. I'm not in any pain.
Right.
I thought that is fantastic.
Yeah. And a great analogy.
That is fantastic.
I
She was there. And this is it, right? What are we going to do with it?
Right. That's the key.
And then what happens?
We're not. I hope that you don't think we're picking on you, Sharon.
No. I mean, who doesn't? I mean, I do it. I'm like this. I can't believe this. I mean, who doesn't do it? Life is hard.
Exactly. It is hard. And we can have that feeling.
Oh my God.
But it really goes back to the going underground and what you're allowing to happen underground. Part of it is that, and how you're perceiving things, how you're seeing things. Sometimes you need to come back out into the sunshine, which is taking a timeout. You have your buddies around you who are going to help you get out of the rabbit hole. Because a lot of times we're feeling that way because it's okay. Marilyn is my queen of what we think we create. How we use our words is what we're talking to the universe about. Like, life is hard. So the universe says, okay, let me help you with that. So,
oh my God. I always tell my clients, you better be careful about your declaration.
Exactly.
Because the I am is what the universe hears.
It is what the universe.
I am happy and successful and having the time of my life. And the universe says, that's great. Yes, we agree. You're happy. You're successful. I am drowning. I'm in just severe pain. I can't find my way. Okay. The universe says, great. Well, that's what we'll do then. You are miserable right now. We agree. I mean, you have to design the life.
Right.
And then you get the support of the universe, right? Like the I am declaration and that's just me. I don't know if that's true, but it has worked for me my whole life.
Exactly.
So I stick with it. So, and I don't know if it's true. I just know it's true for me. So, and speaking to who asked this question about life is hard, I am not minimizing that when I say, and then what?
Yeah.
That would be my question back when my client says life is hard. And then what? Because that is the conversation.
Right.
The life is hard is not the conversation.
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, I totally agree with you. It's your story. It's your belief.
Yeah. We have to get, and then what happens?
Yeah.
Right?
You need to
Let's talk about that.
Right.
And then you can start to unpack. Like when my clients come in and I ask them, what do you want? What do we want to work? Well, no one comes in anymore. Now it's all just virtual, but, and I'll ask them, what do you want to talk about? Sometimes people just immediately start crying. They're so overwhelmed by what it is. And I always tell them, I will guarantee you this. In 30 minutes from now, we will have unpacked all of that is pushing you to this. And you will find out that most of it isn't even real.
Exactly. And that it's just the surface, because as you're unpacking, you're going to find out what the real core of the problem is. And that's what you work on right there. That's the nugget of truth in your life. Because when you are feeling overwhelmed, and the other thing is when we're especially a lot of us in this group, we're all into self-help, woo-woo. I know a lot of these people are doing tarot cards and listen to tarot readers. So you're definitely on that path of
beautiful tools.
Right. Well, you're on the path of who am I and why am I here? What is the purpose of life? And if you're going through that process, it can be overwhelming and it can be hard at times, because what I was going to say earlier is all from your perspective. And through the journey of our learning, we're shifting our perspective. And that's what it's all about, is seeing, okay, life is hard. Why? And then what? To now I'm seeing it this way.
Yeah.
And that's going to help everything. And if you're thinking that life is hard, then you're right. It's going to be hard. So changing your perspective to looking at life as a playground for us to learn from. And I can't do it wrong. I can do it my way. And I'm going to learn and experience life as I go through this experience. That, if you can look at it that way, then it makes it a little easier.
Yeah. I mean, your thoughts become your reality. That's
Exactly.
You can't change that.
You can't.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I think, like, I am the person that I can get overwhelmed. Like, I always use the analogy of me and my ex-husband. The garage would get full of stuff.
Yes.
Well, it's so full in there, I don't know how to do anything.
Uh-huh.
So I avoid it.
Uh-huh. I
just don't go in there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how the hell somebody takes on a project like that. I just shut down and walk past it. Like, what? Can't see a thing. Just keep going. But for him, he's like, well, you're overwhelmed. It's not a big deal. Here's what we're going to do. We'll just take everything out of it, out of the garage. Mm-hmm. And then we'll start looking and assessing at everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we'll find out a lot of it, what's in that garage isn't even ours.
Okay. There's problem number one.
Right. And so now we're just going to go through and we're going to see what is necessary to keep, what doesn't belong to us, and what we no longer need.
Right.
This is the same thing.
Exactly.
When we are going in deep, we're just cleaning the garage, honey. Cleaning the basement, whatever it is, right? We're just going to go inside and take everything back out. And then we're going to start to look at what is us, what is not serving me, what is necessary, who am I with this?
Where did I get it? Where did I pick it up from? That's a good question I like to ask myself. Is this really my belief? Did I pick this up for myself? Or was I given this gift that I can now take back?
Yeah, I love that. It's not even mine.
I don't like it anymore. It's yours. Okay, I'm going to pick on Sharon again. Sharon, I'm sorry. I'm going to pick on you again. Just a little bit. Lots of love. And come on tomorrow, because I'm going to do readings again tomorrow. Life is like a classroom, and it's hard to pass. That's the one thing I had to come back to these, because you are not the only one who believes this, and you're not the only one who feels this way. So that's why I'm coming back to these, because they're really important. And I love Outside Your Window. It's beautiful. He is in Portland, Oregon, if you guys want to know, where it's actually absolutely beautiful and green. But we're not going to. First, I would say you've got some things in your childhood, Sharon, that you have to go back and deal with, or basically revisit again, because you must have had a hard time in school, I would say, of some sort. But we're not going to do this wrong. We're going to do it our way. That's the thing that I have come to learn, is that we're not going to do it wrong. It's not a pass-fail thing. Well, that got your tongue.
There is no pass-fail.
There is no pass-fail.
All right, and the classroom.
It's an experience.
And what are you being graded on? There's no passing. There's just learning.
Yep.
And everyone is learning how they learn.
Exactly.
And the problem with those conversations is that it is we're competing with something else. Like people will say to me, I'll be working with, they're like, oh, I just wish I could, I don't see the way you do when you're doing readings. I'm like, well, how would you know how I see? It's just, and then that's a conversation you made up.
Yep.
And now you're stuck there.
Yeah.
So you created a story that isn't even real to hold you back from what it is that you want.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so that's that whole idea. I mean, and again, I know this only because I've been stuck in that classroom.
Yep.
I mean, I used to have a reoccurring nightmare that I didn't graduate from high school and I had to go back at whatever age I was. And this happened well into my 30s.
Wow.
And I would get there and I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And I couldn't learn anything.
Oh, no.
Oh, my aching ass. It was horrible. And it was just,
horrified.
It was awful, awful, awful. And then I figured out, what it was tied to and how to get out of it. And no, it never happens. But
yes, one day.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
And so we just have to know that we are where we are. We have to learn, one of my nephews had a learning disorder. The school told my sister all of these learning disorders. She spent time with him, figured out how he learns. And now he's 2 years ahead of everybody else. Like,
and that happens all
right?
the time in schools, all the time in schools.
Yeah. And so, and we are just learning as we go. And like for me, I'm a lemonade person, right? You can throw lemons at me all day long and I will find the lemonade because that's just, I don't know. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, what else you got?
Right.
When the universe throws me a curve and I want to kill myself, and trust, that's a real damn thing, by the way.
It is. Absolutely.
Like the voices in my head, I always say there's like 3 voices. I like when I get them all together because then I can really get shit done. But oftentimes, like one of them is way down in the dumps, and the other 2 are like, I've never seen them like this. This is gonna be tough. And then I figure out at some point I can find my way out of it because I just stop myself and think, I have so many tools.
Yeah.
There are so many things that I know how to do.
Right.
So quit telling myself I can't.
Right.
And start knowing that I always have.
Exactly.
We are all where we are today because we are strong and we've learned to get to where we are. That did not happen without us learning. So we have to know. But that brings me to, here's an issue I come against all the time with my clients when I ask them, let's talk about your superpowers. I don't have any superpowers. You sure do. We all do. Everyone came with them. What are your superpowers? Because, and no one likes a braggart. We all grew up with that, right? Don't think too much of yourself. My father used to say, who do you think you are?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, you have to know who you are, and you have to know what your strengths are, and you have to know beyond a doubt what it is that you are inherently amazing at. Like I can pick up dog shit all day. That's not a gift. It's just I'm good at it. Right?
Exactly.
But I did come with some amazing gifts, and I'm happy with them, and I know what they are. But how can you leverage who you are and what you know if you can't name what it is that you need to leverage? You can't call up your superpower and tell your friends with it, right? You have to really sit with yourself and know all your strengths. I just did my meditation group that's been with me for like 14 years. We're doing this great thing before all this lockdown happened, but in one of the writing exercises I had everyone write down on one side of the paper all their superpowers. And then on the other side, we wrote a list of what is in the way of everything that we need to move forward, right?
Mhm.
What is blocking us? And so we all did it. And then all your answers were on the other side of the page. You already have all the goddamn strength to move past this, but we're not. We're
Yeah,
just like frozen over here with this
right,
is in my way.
right.
But you can't leverage what's over here if you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's such
Yeah.
an important
Mhm,
thing to
mhm,
really get comfortable with,
mhm,
loving those strengths about who you are so you
mhm.
can leverage them. Like I'm doing a reading for a group of people, and all of a sudden I get sucked out of the reading and I realize I'm just sitting with 6 strangers who I know nothing about, and they are all just waiting for me to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Right. And in that moment, I just freeze and I think
Uh-huh.
all the demons start, right? The
Yeah.
stories,
Mhm.
well, you're a liar anyway. You're not really a medium. You don't know anything. And for a second, I'm going to believe it. And then I think, one of my superpowers. I'll go to one of my superpowers. I'll use the one where I just know stuff.
Yep, that one. Mhm.
And then I'm back in, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
in minutes, but it is happening all the time. And you have to know how to call it up, but you
yeah,
can't
yeah.
call it up if you don't know it by name.
Exactly. And
Sorry, that was a
sometimes
big rant.
no, I love that because it's true, and we all have that. And that's what I loved about what you had brought up, Sharon, because we all feel that way. And it's funny because I'm working with 2 different mentors for my mediumship. And through my process, I've worked with and spoken to some really, really good mediums, well-known mediums.
Yeah.
And both of my mentors and the ones that I have spoken to all say the same thing. They still doubt. They still question. They still wonder because we're human and that's what we're going to do. But then you go into that connection with the other side and you're like, sweet spot. It's true. That sitter, that communicator is there for the sitter. You cannot make so many times up a complete story if it's not true. You just can't. And that's what gets me going is when I'm doing a reading for somebody and I'm knowing exactly what their father did and what his personality was like and how he passed, what his relationship was. When you're doing that many times, you cannot make that up. That's where and that's with everything that we go through when we're learning. It's our practicing it, our doing it and doing it over and over again and going, I can't do it that many times without knowing something about it, whatever it is, whatever you're trying to overcome or whatever story it is you're trying to change. It's repeating it and facing it and challenging it in your head. That's where it all comes from, is there.
If you can't believe you can't believe anything.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm
And
glad
so,
life is good, Sharon.
and getting to that space where you can truly
Mhm.
just acknowledge that, you know what? It's part of that whole, even that takes me into the vulnerability stuff, right? When people say, I will need to trust you and know you for a while before I can be vulnerable with you,
Mhm.
where I think that's not true. I
Mhm.
think the true vulnerability isn't trusting someone else, it's trusting yourself.
Exactly.
So what
Mhm.
the greatest level of vulnerability is when you finally accept that no matter what happens, I'm okay because of me.
Exactly. That is my biggest message and the one that I had to learn. And it's taken me a lot of years to learn that it all comes from within you. And that's Sharon, I am so thankful that you asked those questions because you're not the only one that feels that way. We all feel that way. We all feel like if life is hard and will I be able, I remember when I first started my process and I had this mentor that I was friends with, and I used to ask, what if I get it wrong? What if I don't know? What if I miss something? You're not. He just kept on telling me, you're not going to, and you're not.
And I would say then what happens? Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing happens. Nothing happens.
I'm so grateful that you asked the question and we can actually talk about it because I guarantee you put the question out there and other people needed to hear this as well.
Yeah.
That's the way that it works. From my experience, that's the way that it works.
I mean, this conversation is like I'm just looking in the mirror and talking to myself today. These are all affirmations.
Exactly.
Like, I'm just like, okay, bitch, believe this. You know this is true.
Uh-huh.
And just say it because you know it's true.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's how I feel.
Yes.
And that is constant thing. I mean, we're all doing this work, right? Well, all of us.
Yes.
And there is no, a lot of times, I think you and I have talked about this, where you have to learn a lesson to get to the next level. And then once you're at that level, you have to do this work to get to the next level. Like we're all playing Frogger. And if you get across without getting run over, you're better than everybody else.
I love your analogy. Yeah, that one.
Like we have to let go of this idea that there's some level that we're getting to and attaining. And
yes,
like one of my girlfriends, we were having this conversation. She's like, what if I don't get my life lessons? And what if I don't? I'm like, okay, what if there are no life lessons? What if none of that there is nothing like that? What if everything was just about you experiencing this life in every moment?
Let's breathe that one in. Let's breathe a hallelujah on that one. Let's breathe that one in. What if? I love that.
What if none of it mattered?
Yes.
And you're only just trying to have every experience as it happened. Because we are always making a deal somewhere else.
Yes, we are.
We're going to do this now so that this will happen later.
And what happened?
Then you're not where you are.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just it's always a deal somewhere else. I'm going to buy myself clothes when I lose 20 pounds. I'm going to feel better about myself when I pass this test. It's a deal somewhere else.
Yeah.
We're never where we are.
Exactly.
So what if every moment just mattered about that moment? Like you were just having it as it happened. And that's such, I mean, again, I'm working with my group, this process, that is such a huge thing of trying not to be expanding somewhere else, right? Just staying where you are and just feeling everything. One of the people in my group said, I'm better at once I move through something, I like to look back and see how far I've come. And then I can see what I've learned. Well, that's one way to process.
That's good.
Or you could have been in every moment acknowledging where you are now.
Yeah, but I like to look back too. I'm with her.
No. I've said it my whole life. I love, the turnaround. Exactly. And that's when I can process where I was. And I would have teachers say what I'm saying now, and I never got it. It's like I just realized it.
I understand what you're saying, because I think now when I do something that's familiar that I know is not in alignment for me, it's not about me looking back. It's about me being the observer of how I handled it now compared to how I handled it 10 years ago. Because you're always hit with similar things. So how do you handle it? How are you responding to it? The interesting thing that I've learned through my journey, because I came from different kinds of religious backgrounds with very strong belief systems, is that we absolutely know nothing about what the truth is on the other side. Nobody.
Good for you.
Bible thumper asked me once, how do you know you're not going to hell? And I said, how do you know you're not? A book is telling you that? I mean, how do you absolutely, positively, concretely, 100%, hands down, positively know? You can't.
No one knows anything. We all believe something.
We do.
We've just all chosen to believe something.
We did.
And it's okay, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There is no greater.
It's having an open mind to the possibilities of other things. That's what I've learned, because I was just talking to one of my mentors for mediumship, talking about life after death and his perspective, from his perspective. And he totally is open with that's his perspective, which is totally different than anything I'd ever heard before. But how do we know what really is truth? Everybody has different beliefs. Everybody has different ideas. We don't have the book, the main book. I mean, we have connections, we have downloads, we have guides, we can tap into the universal consciousness, all of that. which helps us to know better the truth. But I don't think that we're ever given the whole diagram. We're not given the plan for a reason.
Well, again, that is projecting somewhere else, right?
Exactly.
Then we'd be too worried about, like religion teaches you, be good now so that later God will love you more and let you live in his house.
Exactly.
So you're not here. You're making a deal somewhere else.
Right.
Like, no, you should be good because you're of goodness.
Exactly.
You should be kind because you're of kindness.
Right.
You should be loving because you're of love.
Right.
Like when I hear people say, I just hope I made somebody's day better, I think, well, then you're a fraud. Because if you're being nice, hoping you made somebody else feel better, then you're not being nice because you're nice. You're wanting some result.
Exactly.
So then you're not nice. You're a fraud.
Right.
You should just be nice without an attachment to the outcome.
Right.
Because you are nice, right? Like just be kind. Because I get it. Like sometimes people and I was so nice to them. They didn't even say hello back. Well, you weren't doing a business deal. That doesn't negate your kindness, by the way.
Oh, we're such humans.
I mean, I do it all the time, trust me. And I catch myself on it and think, all right, man, calm down. Just be kind because you're kind. Quit expecting somebody else to reward you because you did something kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of those things, it's just like, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Quit trying, I saw Jesus one time, many times in meditation, but one time he told me to quit trying to be who you are and just allow yourself time to become who you are.
Well, that's really poignant. That's very deep.
Oh my kid, you can imagine what it did to me.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Because I'm like notorious, the push person. I need to push harder to get to where I want to go. I'm always like that. And it's so hard to surrender.
And I want to be it.
Yes.
Like I wanted to be a medium.
Yeah.
No, I just am one. There's no being.
Serious. It's really that easy.
There's no being.
It's a great example of that. It's not about being it. You are it. We're all it.
Right?
Like that hard. We make it hard. I know. I push it all the time.
And so back to your friend who said life is hard.
Yeah.
Right? That is what we do to ourselves to make it hard.
Right.
Like we created all of these things.
Yes. And
it's
we constantly do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
He also told me one time, Jesus said, I know you love me. Don't lose yourself in me.
That's a big one. Mm-hmm.
And that was, give yourself to Jesus, give yourself all of that upbringing that I had. I'm like, oh, right.
And really that goes to any person in that.
It's all right. That is just not about him.
Right. Exactly. Totally. Yeah. Because we can all give our power away like that. And that
is what it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. However you project it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a great guide. A loving, beautiful spirit.
Yes. Awesome. Well, we have now gone 23 minutes over.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But I could talk to you forever. You know that. We have such.
I feel the same way, honey. I really appreciate you. I really, really do.
I so thank all of you for all of your chat, your comments, your feedback, and Sharon S. Thank you so much for giving us such great conversation today. That was very inspired and needed. So thank you.
I love it.
I love you all. I love you guys for supporting us and for being here. And Matt, I love you to death.
Likewise, honey. Thank you.
So happy to have you again. It's been a long time. We all went through our little roads that we traveled for a bit. Now we're all back again.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Tomorrow I'm going to come back on and do readings. So I'm going to try it again because I'm trying to get more comfortable being in a public forum doing readings.
Oh, honey, that's so brilliant.
I do it in private and I'm comfortable there because I'm in my little cocoon and, whatever, but I'm trying to do platform stuff. So
I love it. Good.
I'm coming out. Anyway, Thank you, everybody, for being here. We will see you next time. So have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.